Grace.
And hi, I'm Bernie. We're from Eurogliders.
We're going to be talking about our new album, Groove, so stick around.
It's a new look band now with just the two of you and a new sound in a lot of ways. Groove is more rhythmic. Bernie, how would you describe it?
I find it very difficult to describe. The thing about it being sort of dance-oriented came up before the album was finished. And the way the album's turned out, it's not massively dance-oriented, and yet at the same time, as you said, it's very rhythmic, and it's a very different sense of rhythm for Eurogliders. I don't know how to describe it. Atmospherically, I think it's vastly different from anything that we've done before. The biggest thing for me about this album from other Eurogliders albums is that its sounds, the actual sounds that are used on the album are just very different from anything that we've used before. And it really comes down to using samplers and things like that, which we'd never done before.
Are you moving to programming rather than playing?
No, there's not a lot of programming as such. I tried very hard to encourage everybody to actually play their parts than program, because I didn't want Eurogliders have always been accused of being very programmed, and it wasn't true, and I didn't want to do that again, go through that process.
And what about you, Grace? Do you see technology affecting the way you work?
Programming, it doesn't really affect me either way. I mean, as long as I can start singing a song as soon as there's bass, guitar and drums on it, and as long as I know basically what my melody's going to be, I'm quite happy to start there. Quite often I don't know. I usually start when it's all done, all finished. But it doesn't really affect me either way, whether things are programmed or played live.
Did you, well, without the wider band, how different was it recording vocals?
Actually, I found them a lot easier this time. Bernie's melodies are really hard to sing because they're odd. They're not natural to me. Usually they're not natural to me, but it's something that I have to work at in the studio. And quite often I'd say to Bernie, "Oh, can we do it this way?" And he'd say, "No, no, we can't do it that way." And so, but this time it was, I think basically because it was just us two, and we both have sort of got the same background of the types of things that we used to listen to, and it was very sort of soul, Motown, funk sort of music that we listened to, and so this time, to me, the melodies seemed to go along that line a lot more.
So the lineup is different, the sounds are different. What about your inspirations for Groove, your muse?
This album marks quite a change for Eurogliders in the sense that our very first album, called Pink Suit Blue Day, the subject matter on that album was very political. There were a lot of songs that talked about situations for people around the world. We went off on a tangent after that on This Island, and more so with Absolutely, where we simply talked about relationships, particularly relationships between two people. This album, we've gone back, and a goodly percentage of the album actually talks about the sorts of situations that people find themselves in this world that we have today. And the first song on the album, called Listen, is a very good example of that. Eurogliders started writing anti-nuclear songs long before Midnight Oil latched onto it, way back with Pink Suit Blue Day. And we now have another song which very definitely states our feelings about the nuclear situation in the world today and the sorts of fear that it provides, particularly for young people. And that's principally what Listen is about.
Yeah, so the band's been going since 1980, and this is your fourth album. What do you think you've learned?
I think, there's a couple of important things that we've learned. One of them is, from a very business point of view, having been in this industry for some time now, I think we've learnt that if we want things to go as we see it properly, and then we have to take control of almost every facet of Eurogliders, whether it's our videos or whether it's very mundane business things. That's the first thing, which we now are fully aware of everything that is going on and are involved in the decision making. The other thing I think that we've learnt, firstly with Absolutely, and much more so on this album, is to take control of our music, whether it's from the point of view of self-production or whether it's from the point of view of having the ability to go and grab some player that you like and use him on your music because you like what that player does. That's
just
an
for
important.
one song in particular.
Even if it's just for one song, yeah. Which we never had that. We never had that ability in the past. We do now.
I suppose being a slimmed down band, you become a little bit more flexible. What was the point, or was there a point when you decided to trim down to two?
I think having a baby was probably the thing that kicked us off, really pushed us in that direction where we had to sort of say, no, we can't do this, but we'll do it this way, or, we have to organise things, as finely as possible.
And I think it was something that we thought about a lot when we decided to pair Eurogliders down to Grace and myself, was that we wanted to take more responsibility for what was being seen as Eurogliders music. It was a big risk to do so, but we felt we could do it. And it then finally being just Grace and myself, we very quickly just grabbed that opportunity and accepted the responsibility, and it's worked very successfully since then.
Was it difficult to move on with the new lineup?
Oh, it's very difficult because the way we were working from 82 up until 87 was basically we were constantly touring. We really had very little time off, and if we weren't on the road, we were doing other projects like recording or making videos. And so even when there's maybe personality differences, between different members, they're still part of a family. It's just like, your brother does things that really get on your nerves, but he's still your brother, And so it's very difficult to come to terms with saying, right, we should really do this by ourselves.
Well, did you consider going your own separate ways altogether, and who would get the name?
I guess Bernie and I have, we've always seen ourselves as Eurogliders, or the main core of Eurogliders. So I think our way of thinking was, that we were a duo or a partnership.
And I think we've also been inspired a lot by other duos around the place who've given us the confidence to go ahead and do it. Whether it's on the local scene, someone like Paul and Steve from Wawani, or overseas, Dave and Annie from Eurythmics. People like that have constantly given us confidence to do what we've done.
Now, one of the singles from the album is It Must Be Love.
Pretty thing in my life.
This song was a very hard song for Grace to sing. It started out sounding like Billy Idol for some reason, and therefore was necessarily, very low like Billy Idol sings. And it took Grace a little while to sort of get down that far, but once she was down there, she jumped in well and truly, and the pretty thing in my life sounds really excellent, and the vocal on this song is one of Grace's better vocals of all time.
I think one of the reasons for that was that while I was recording this, I was quite pregnant at the time. I was about 7-8 months pregnant, so we had a lot of fun with it, but my boyfriend was away at the time. He had been away for 2 months filming in another country. And so I used to think about him quite a lot. And I think that's one of the reasons it gave me a low voice too. And so I used to think about him and wild, hard love and fun love and things like this. That's the truth. And it was a lovely song for me to sing. It sort of brought him home the few minutes I was recording it. But it was lovely.
Bernie, on the song What's the Point, you seem to be tapping into something different.
What's the Point is a song which is very different for Eurogliders, and I guess fits into the whole mood of the album, which is very rhythmically different. It once again tells a story and once again says something. It is a song about homeless people in this country, a topic which comes up a lot in music from Australian bands. And this song was written because every day I came to the studio, I had like an 8-minute walk to the studio from my house. And I live in an area where there are a lot of homeless people, particularly old men who drink too much. And I literally every day had to walk over these men because they were lying in the street every day to get to the studio. And it had to affect me and came out in this song, which, I think says something about these men, and if anything, just sort of, I hope, will make people sort of sit up and be aware that if you're living out in some nice, comfortable suburb, that you're very lucky, because there's an awful lot of people who don't even have roofs over their heads.
Is Dreaming really the optimistic song it sounds like on the surface?
In actual fact, what it's talking about isn't that optimistic. It's a very personal song for Grace and myself, in the sense that the last year and a half has been very difficult because we've had to go and, take a lot of risks. and also get ourselves out of a lot of situations which are the normal sorts of situations that rock and roll bands get themselves into with management and everything. And it very simply says, it's almost a kind of thank you actually to a few people around us who have been very good to us over the last year and a half and have supported us immensely in the making of this record. And it's like the words say, don't you wake up sometimes holding your head when nothing is right, wishing you were somewhere else instead. And I've been dreaming of jumping. In other words, I've been thinking about getting out of all of this. But I've also been hoping that, these people around us will say, no, keep going, keep doing it, it's sounding good. And I'm glad they did. It does sound good.
Yeah. The backstory of your relationship together.
I was going to say earlier, actually, that breaking up the band was probably more difficult than breaking up our marriage in some funny sort of way.
It's certainly, it's unique.
But yeah, well, I think we do have a very unusual relationship, and it's a relationship which I'm sure a lot of people find great difficulty in understanding, because it is uncommon for people who have been involved on an emotional level for quite a long time to continue working together after they've broken up. I'm not going to say it was easy for a little while, but the love of music and the desire to continue creating ourselves, the two of us, overcame any difficulties that we had. And I think that we're much stronger friends now than we ever were when we were together, in some funny sort of way also.
Well, that's good. Now, Grace, the song Lights Go Red is pretty dark.
I think it was made from the previous year, where we'd had a lot of frustration. We'd had a very hard time with our management. We'd had a bad time with the band. Through it all, we had to continue performing and trying to be creative in those circumstances. It was very difficult. And so you go through stages where you literally feel like you're just taking one step forward, 2 steps backwards, and you feel like you're getting nowhere, but you're putting out so much that you just wonder when it's going to stop. When are you going to get some reward or some recognition for what you're doing? And you get very angry about it eventually. It's sort of there's got to be a time when that stops, and so you feel like this is we tumble and fall. Is it really worth it? But in the end, it is worth it, because if you do work and you do try and you keep on pushing, even when it gets just ridiculously hard, in the end something good is going to happen. It has to. That's the way the world is.
Something good is going to happen. It has to. Is that something you take in when you're creating a new album?
I think there's a certain period in making a record when you do obviously start to flag, and because you're booked for, say, 8 weeks solid, you really have to suddenly find some vibe and get it happening again. It was very difficult on this album, partly because I didn't want to produce this album. I made that quite plain to the record company, but the powers that be in the record company decided that they wanted me to produce it. So I didn't have much choice. I was very tired when we started the album, and I was considerably tired by the time we finished it. It was a very harrowing exercise, principally because of the responsibility that goes with being tagged as a producer. I don't like that responsibility at all. I
don't know anyone that can keep up with Bernie. We have to hire different engineers to come on shifts to keep up with him. And at one stage, we actually had different studios. We had 2 studios going at the same time with 2 engineers in each studio. And Bernie was running between the 2 studios while I'd be doing one vocal. He'd run off to Rhinoceros and make sure that the engineers were doing what he asked for there. And then he would come back here and listen to what I did. And he just doesn't stop. There are times where you say, Bernie, stop it. You're not hearing things properly. I like what I'm doing and I don't want to lose that. But he's an incredibly hard worker.
Bernie, when you pick a song to become the first single from the album, do you look for something that's representative of the overall sound of the record?
The first single off the album, Groove, is very representative of the album in the sense that it is very rhythmic and also has a slight bit of funk in it. Grace and I are come from a very funky background. A lot of the music we listen to now is very funky. And so we're very proud of this record because for the first time I think we've put into our music something of the sort of music that we listen to and like ourselves. It's a feminist song, of all things. I can't remember Eurogliders taking a feminist stance before, and I'm not sure that we're going out and standing up in a big way and going to go out and rally for it. But it is, and very simply, I think describes how difficult it is for women to get somewhere, no matter whether you're in the rock and roll industry or in any form of industry or job, occupation. And it very simply says, look, if you want something, you can do it. You've got to go out and take what's good for you, which is the line in the chorus, groove, baby, and take what's good for you.
Maybe almost anthemic. How do you approach how you're going to put a song like this together?
For Groove, there were so many ways that we could do this song. We did, I think, 4 versions in all. One of them is just like a talking version, where it's quite sort of low and there's no melody to it. But it really is, quite a lot of our songs are optimistic, and it really is saying that you have to create your own opportunities in life, and you can't just stand there saying, oh, this isn't working for me, that isn't working for me. You've got to get your back up and stand up and make it work. And basically, this is my motto. If my motto for life: if there's a will, there's a way. And I think this is what Groove is all about.
Oh, good motto. Now, Bernie, you mentioned before about sampling and introducing some new sounds to this album.
On this record, we used a lot of sampling, and it was a process, a technology that we haven't used before with Eurogliders, but it was something that I really wanted to get into. Sampling, if you don't know what it is people like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, for instance, use a lot of sampling. Producers like Trevor Horn use it. It's just a very simple process where you record a sound onto something similar to a tape recorder, and then you can play that sound on a keyboard. But as you go down the keyboard, it changes that sound just like you play a note on a piano. So the sound, will go pop, and then pop, 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 and you can go all the way down. So it changes the original sound quite dramatically. So the sound you had suddenly becomes something completely different. On 2 songs, one of them's called Lights Go Red and the other one's Walk on Water. There's they almost sound like explosions or sort of things. And all they are is this silly little piece of plastic which has little bubbles on it, and you just sort of go like that into the microphone. Then if you transpose that or take it right down low, it sounds like... It's incredible. And there's sounds like that all across the record that we just came in here and spent a whole day doing.
You just mentioned Walk on Water. Can you tell us about the song?
Walk on Water. The words are, sometimes when I'm left all alone, can't stop the river flow. And if I try to return, don't you know that I've learnt so far?
And I think the reason why Grace is laughing is because this song is really about absolutely nothing whatsoever. And that's the absolute God's honest truth. It really is.
I tried to make it sound...
Grace is trying to make it sound like something, but no. And actually, the truth is this song is about nothing. And one of the things that I, as a songwriter, have always done is to use word association and put together words that actually roll off the tongue. Now, normally I'm able to make it into some form of sense. On this occasion, though, even as I read back the words, I'm afraid I can't find a damn thing in this song that makes any sense whatsoever, but it's a really, really good song and is a great way to end the album off. It's the funkiest song on the album, and we really got down on it as a piece of music, and the way the words roll off the tongue, it's fantastic, and I love it, but it means nothing at all.
Fair enough. No doubt the band is heading out on the road to support this album. Are you looking forward to that?
When you're in the studio, you long to be out touring, basically because you long to be out doing the songs that you're working on then and there. They're new songs. And it's like wearing a new dress. You want to wear it to the restaurant, to the disco. You want to wear it, every occasion you can. But then once you've been on the road for maybe 3 months, it's like, I want to go home. I want to vacuum the floor. I want to wash some dishes. I want to...
Cook your own meal, I think, is a very important thing on the road that you miss very much. Just going home and cooking your own meal rather than being fed some of the ridiculous food that you end up eating on the road.
But I'm looking forward to a lot this time, simply because I've got Jackie, and the fact that we haven't worked for over a year. But it's always a nice sort of family type atmosphere. I've also got my cousin over from London, who is Jackie's nanny, and so it's like taking two of my family now, on tour with me. The feelings about touring are usually made up of things that happen outside of the actual gigs. You know, the gigs usually look after themselves. They're usually, you know, high energy, a lot of fun. But it's the things that happen when you're driving to the gigs, or the places you go to, or the hotels you stay at, that are what make the tour exciting or boring.
Taking your son on his first tour, it's a big moment for him.
He's already done his first track on the B-side of our single. We had him in the studio, and it was the only way that, for some reason, he didn't want to go with Bernie that time. And so I had to hold him against me while I was singing, and then he eventually went to sleep. So I put him underneath the piano while I was singing quite quietly. And before we knew it, he'd woken up and started screaming really loud, and it came out on the microphone, but he just happened to scream in the right places at the right pitch, and so we kept it on the single. It was great.
Perfect. Now, the song Precious has a nice sentiment to it.
Don't be so precious. It's sort of like everyone's got some friends, you know, that when they get down, they get so down that they just can't get up no matter what you say to them. It's like some people actually wallow in being down. And sure, you know, bad things happen. We get hurt. We all get hurt. But this song is like saying to people, look, I know things aren't going wonderfully well for you, but you can't wallow in it. You know, you're not the only one this is happening to. There's, you know, other people are having much worse experiences than this. So you can't, you know, you've got to get back up again and start looking for something good in life. So no matter what people do to you, you have to sort of try and find the goodness in it and get yourself happening.
You know, what we've found is that certainly within, you know, our relationship, Grace and mine, that if we have problems, we go and talk about it with, you know, with each other. And that's something that people don't do enough of these days, is actually sit down and just talk to other people about their problems. I think they hold them in to themselves a little too much. And this song is, I hope, in the long run, a very uplifting one. Don't be so precious. There's lots of other people out there who are experiencing the same sorts of things in life that you are. Go and talk to them about it.
Is there a song on the album you look back at and go, gee, that was hard work?
The song Underground was probably the most difficult song on the album to actually achieve. I think I changed the melody and the words to this song as many as half a dozen times, and it got very confusing for Grace because I kept saying to her, come on, I've changed it, you'll have to come back in and sing it again. And then it got to the point where we were mixing the song, and I listened to all the music, and the music sounded great. I didn't like the words, I didn't like the melody, so we mixed all the sound, and then I took the tape away, and a couple of days later put on vocals to this song. Once again, completely different. And Grace hadn't even heard it. It was a couple of days after I'd done this that she heard it and said, what the hell is this song? There's nothing very important about this song. It's just a song which has, I think, a nice sense of melody about it, and it's a love song, I guess, one of the few ones on the album. But in a lot of ways, it sounds very silly. You with your head in the sand, ain't you lucky? Wish I could come underground with you. It's like being an emu. It's just a good little song, and I think it's one that people can sing along with very easily.
Well, I guess we'll find out when you hit the road. Are we expecting any major shake-ups with the Eurogliders live sound?
I think that the one difference with playing this album live is that the players we're using are very funky players, and particularly having two guitarists, and guitar being such an integral part to that rhythmic funk feel, you know, that they're tending to play a lot of the songs with a little more funk than actually is on the album, which is great for live, because, I mean, when you listen to an album, you're sitting in your lounge room and you can sit back and listen to it and have a few drinks or whatever. When you're playing live, they're all standing up and they want to move. So the addition of this little funk additive from the guitarist in particular on stage is just great, and I'm sure people will notice that.
And just finally, same question for you both. beyond this album, Groove, what do you see in the future for the Eurogliders?
Looking ahead for me is I would like to see Eurogliders reach a certain level, say a little bit better than we are in Australia, but the equivalent all around the world. And I'd like us to be comfortable enough to go out and put on the sorts of shows that the overseas acts are coming over here to play at the entertainment centre. I'd like us to be able to afford the sorts of lights and the equipment that we're up against now when we're not actually trying to compete with them, but it would be nice to be in that position to do something yourself, and use your own creativity to create something special on stage. I'd like to reach that sort of level where the money wouldn't break us to do it.
What about you, Bernie?
Looking ahead, I see a lot more Eurogliders albums, because 2.5 years between albums, between Absolutely and this one, Groove, is far too long. And I'm a very prolific songwriter. I write a lot of songs. I probably wrote 70 songs for this album, Groove, in the long run, and pared it down. I would like to see an album per year from now on, which is not what's happened with Eurogliders in the past, but I'm going to make damn sure it happens this time, because we both enjoy the process of recording, and I can't see why we shouldn't put out an album per year, which I think also in the long run will make it better, make our chances better of succeeding overseas too, with more product.